but they have left us an enormous legacy. They were at the forefront of fighting the British indoctrination and coming with a Bharatiya lens. So they were the stepping stone for us, basically, because they were grounded in the Bharatiya civilization, but they were also listening to the nonsense from the British and missionaries and so on. So this middle line is very important for what they left behind, especially Surendranath Dasgupta, who's written a 6-volume a series on the philosophy, Indian philosophy. Very valuable to read that. P.V. Kane, his works on history, you can read that. Vartak, who's written works on astronomy. Dharampal, who's done enormous work on the Indian civilization, on the education and other such things. K. Munshi, thanks to whom we have got Somnath Temple and others still existing today. And Kota Venkatachalam, who has also contested a lot of these things. Many, many teachers are there, but my respects to them because I've learned a lot from their works. And in the last line, these are the teachers who are there with us today, who have also done a lot of work. My pranams to Subhash Kakji. It is his works that I learned a lot from the 90s onwards. It was his works that I learned myself about so many of these things. Next is Srikant Talagiri. He works a lot on analyzing the Rig Veda, looking at the linguistic content in that, and trying to address all of the issues of whether it is into India or out of India transmissions. Everybody might know Rajiv Malhotraji. So he's done a lot for the civilization, looking at the battles out there, understanding what the Western academia is talking about us and writing it in a language that we can appreciate. He's written several books. And next is Srini Kalyan Raman, who's devoted his entire life to studying Harappan script and trying to use a rebus model to talk about that. Excuse me. Then C.K. Raju, who's done a lot of work on transmission of ideas, Bharatiya mathematics, understanding that and how it has impacted the rest of the world. He's done a lot of work in that. Then a couple of foreigners who have devoted a lot of attention to India, Conrad Elst, one of them, and Michel Danino, who's a professor in IIT Gandhinagar, who have done a lot of work on Bharati civilization. So once again, my pranams, my respects, Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. So when we started out this whole thing, we started out on several topics. So Subhash Gupta ji, who's here, as well as Devendra ji, they requested me to give the series of talks at Arya Samaj. And based on that, I said we'll do it in 4 topics because the time allocated was about 45 to 50 minutes per lecture. So I said there is so much to talk over here, so we just divided it into 4. So in the first topic, I talked about the toxicity of enforced narrators. We talked about how Hindus have endured centuries of destruction. It is not a small destruction. We have suffered tremendously over so many centuries. Our ancestors have gone through hell. They've gone through hell and back and given us this gift. Whatever legacy you have in Sanatana Dharma, what you're practicing, it is truly a gift with blood, their blood and sweat. That's what we have today. We must cherish this, we must nurture it, and we must give it to our children and grandchildren. If we don't, you're doing tremendous pap you're doing if you don't do that. So please keep this in mind when I'm talking these things. So our way of life has been destroyed. Our economy has been destroyed. Our institutions have been destroyed. And our identity has been thoroughly destroyed and distorted. So like I said, our children are learning nonsense, utter nonsense. In my talks, I'm saying several people in India should be behind bars. These are people who have written the NCERT textbooks and other such things. They have done civilizational crimes against us. Millions and millions and millions of minds have been deracinated, have been removed from the cultural context of the country with their distortion. Any other country, they'd be lined up and shot. If they're in China, they'd be lined up and shot for their civilization crime. In India, we don't do that. But these guys belong behind bars. I truly hope accountability will come one day when all the NCERT chairmen will be named by name. If they're alive, they'll be shamed and put behind bars. If they're dead, they'll be discredited. I really hope that'll happen. So a horrendous distorted narrative is taking place in the Indian identity. It has taken root in media, academia. It is completely contrary to the evidence and lived experience of the civilization. If somebody says you're a bunch of oppressors, I request you to go back to your own family history. Your fathers, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, do you have any instance of these people being any kind of oppressors? Granted, 1 or 2 of you might be landlords and maybe rich, and maybe you treated your workers badly. But that could be only this kind of economic disparity and that kind of an issue, nothing to do with Sanatan Dharma, nothing to do with it. It is simply our basic human emotions coming out to play in all these conflicts that we see. These are all conflated as problems in Sanatan Dharma by these people. So I request you to look into your own lived experience and say how bogus this narrative is. Then we see what I did in my first talk was I showed some of the key distortions that impact us Indian Americans, and I showed the spurious of the narratives. Then in that talk, I showed to you that these 5 frameworks, the colonial, Eurocentric, missionaries, socialists, and Marxists, they are the ones who have hijacked the history of India. They have imposed their ideology on it. Each of them is coming with an ideology. The colonials wanted to show you are backward, primitive, superstitious. They wanted to show Europe as forward, progressive, technologically advanced. That was their thinking, right? So they imposed that ideology on Indians. And the Eurocentric people, they wanted to show superiority of the white Europeans over all these native people they're conquering and colonialism. And so they came about their own lenses. The missionaries, wherever they went, they wanted to convert Indians, right? So they came with their own biases in translating Sanskrit literature into European languages. They tried to put us in the worst possible light, showing superstitions rather than looking at the metaphoric content that are there in Sanskrit texts. Rather than reading with a drishti that will call for this, they read it with the drishti, trying to point out the problems. Here are all the issues, here are all the kind of things. And then since 1947, we unfortunately got Nehru as the prime minister, who was a socialist. So he brought about a socialist lens. The socialists believe all of past is corrupted. If you want progress in society, you must throw away the past. If you throw away the past, then you can work towards a classless utopia. Utopia is a fantasy, right? That is fantasy that they had. And they believe that change can come through democratic means. The Marxists believe in the same thing, except Karl Marx said a bloody revolution will take place. A violent revolution will kill off the old order, then the workers will rise, kill off the ruling classes, and there'll be a classless society. Socialists believe in the same thing, except not in bloody revolution. They believe through the constitution, we can bring about laws to completely eradicate the old order, which is in India, Sanatan Dharma. That is why Congress party, from the beginning till today, the gloves have come off. You can hear the nonsense that Rahul Gandhi is saying. It is not new. This hatred has been there right from Nehru's days. Every law brought about by the UPA government or the Congress government is designed to kill off your faith of your ancestors and so on. So that is what we are seeing, right? So the socialists came out with their own biases. Then Indira Gandhi, when she wanted to have political survival, 1972, she made a pact to the communists. And the communists said they'll support her in the parliament, but they wanted the education sector, HRD. And so Narul Hassan was appointed as a minister. He created and appointed the entire ecosystem that survives till today. All the social sciences, they are run by the Marxists. So these 5 frameworks are controlling our history. Even today, you'll ask, what about the West? Well, in the West also, the academia is left dominated. It's completely left dominated. So they have a strong base of socialist Marxist ideas, along with toxic amounts of Eurocentrism, white supremacy, and Christian fundamentalism. All this toxic mix is there in the Western academia also. So this is what we are seeing. If you're wondering why is a narrative so difficult to change, there are scholars like Subhash Kak, outstanding people talking. I showed the middle line of scholars who are working in 40s and 50s and so on. Why is it not changing? It's not changing because 5 frameworks are tightly holding this narrative to their chest. They don't want to change it because this suits their purpose, right? The Congress to stay in power and loot the country, they know the vote banks. They know what will work. That divide and rule policy works to the present day. They push the so-called caste narrative. They push the so-called Hindu versus Muslim narrative because these things work for them. So they stay in power, they continue looting. So this is the unfortunate sequence that we are in. And we, as Sanatan Dharma people, are the most unfortunate people today. Because even in this room, I'm willing to bet there are many, many multimillionaires, many times over, not just one time. But then we are not organized. We are so rich, but we are not organized. We have the capacity, we have the financial capacity, but we don't have the organizational capacity. We are not like the Islamic people or the Christians. The Christians have something called tithing, where every Christian family that goes to church obligatorily gives about 7 to 10% of their income every year to the church. And the church uses that money to propagate the church in the rest of the world. Tremendous amounts of money is available. The Muslims collect zakat. Through zakat, they're able to do these things. Also, halal certification, licensing, all these things make money for them. So we are in that. If you compare where we are and where they are, we have the money, we have the knowledge, we don't have the organization. Every organization is fighting with each other, or some rivalry is there, or some such thing is there. So this is the most unfortunate aspect of our karma phala. We are currently over here. We all know what the problem is, but we are unable to find a leader who can be bubbled up from the masses and say, take us forward. Modi is once in 1,000 years, some leaders come over there. Hopefully, better things will happen. Anyway, so this is where we are. The Etic frameworks, I said how the colonial, Eurocentric missionary, their overarching idea, Christianity is the only true religion superior to white Europeans. Socialist academy and Marxists, by destroying Hinduism, we can get a classless utopia. This is what drives them. But what the shared ideas are, everybody loves that, right? To uphold Bible chronology, show Hindus as primitive, backward, superior to white Europeans, promote Christianity, oppressor-oppressed dynamics, class conflicts, claiming victimhood. So these are the motivations. We saw all these things in the first class. Then I said, this is the most important slide I have, which I want your children, you to appreciate, your children, your grandchildren, everybody to appreciate this. You must have a one-line statement. If somebody attacks you today, who are you as a Hindu? You're a rat worshiper, you're an elephant worshiper, you're a monkey worshiper. What will your children do? Are they going to squirm over there and difference anxiety, not knowing more than say, I don't believe all these things. I'm an atheist, I'm that, I'm this. Because they don't have the knowledge. So to articulate that, they must ask back one question. In your way of life, what is the goal of life? Tell me what is the goal of life. In all Abrahamic tradition, the goal of life is to follow a divine dictated law. According to them, some angel came in a cave and gave an illiterate man some revelations, and everybody is supposed to submit to the will of Allah, and you'll be saved. Or according to some other people, that Jesus Christ was born of a virgin and he died on the cross for your sins. The only way to the Father is through the Son. If you don't believe this, you're condemned everlasting hell. Else, if you follow the law, you'll go to what they call as heaven. So Jannat or eternal hell. This is the only two things in their way of life. So believe, they are believers. There's no question of science. There's no question. If you question it, it's blasphemy. They'll cut off your neck, right? You can't question. You blindly obey faith and you'll be admitted. This is their belief. Our children must be able to articulate that and say, our goal in life is to dispel avidya, is to dispel avidya about our existence. Who are we? That every sampradaya that you have in India, everyone, Dvaita, Advaita, Jainism, Buddhism, everything says you must understand who you are, what you are. Maybe I'll leave out Buddhism, but then everyone says the same thing, right? That we understand that this Atman is part of another Brahman. We're basically that. That is who we are, right? It is just like the Upanishads say, the wave that you see, if you go to Galveston, you're seeing all the waves, right? The wave does not have an independent existence of the ocean. It belongs to the ocean. When you see the waves coming, you say, whoa, that's a beautiful wave. That's a big wave. Like it's got an individual character. But eventually it will crash on the beach and becomes water, right? So the Upanishads have this beautiful analogy that shows we are all Brahman. So our goal in life is to dispel our avidya, our ignorance and other such things. And through all the sampradayas, we are expected to question. The entire Upanishad is question and answer by a Shishya to his guru, right? So we question everything in our pursuit of knowledge, who we are. That knowledge may come in this lifetime or across multiple lifetimes based on my karma phala. This is the Hindu belief that we have got multiple lifetimes. The Atman continues to acquire knowledge. We are closer to a spiritual goal as Bhagavan Krishna has promised. If you work like this, or you are further away from a spiritual goal, if my practices are like that, if my vasana and practices are like that, that is what my goal is. Anyway, if we can articulate this, that for us, if we encounter an Abrahamic truth claim that follow Jesus, that's the only way to heaven. Our children must ask, where is the evidence for that? You made a truth claim. I have to use logic and rationality to understand your truth claim. Through what means can I understand that? Then they'll say there is a Bible as prophecy, this, Isaiah, that, this, and all that. We can discuss all those things. Similar with Muslims. So our children must say, our way of life is knowledge. We are after knowledge. We question everything. You say I'm worshipping monkeys. I can, if you have the time, I can tell you about Saguna Brahman, Nirguna Brahman. I can go to an aspirational idea about what we look for. When I know I'm imperfect, I need to have a role model. My role model is Hanuman because I'm a wrestler, right? So I look at Hanuman, and every day in my gym, I am lifting weights and other such things, building my muscle. Or maybe I'm a dancer. I have Nataraja over there. That's my ideal. I want to dance like Nataraja. Or maybe I'm a scholar, so I worship Saraswati because I want to have scholar like that. So our deities are aspirational deities, right? We aspire to see those qualities of Brahman in ourselves. That is what we are doing. So our children must be able to articulate this with great emphasis, rather than by their claim that if you don't follow the law, you'll go to hell. Believe it or not, I have worked with many converted children. Many parents have asked me, and I've worked with them. Do you know why they convert? They convert because a classmate has told them they'll go to hell. They'll burn forever in hell. As simple as this. And to break that away from their head is such an impossible task because it's so deeply burnt into their head that if they don't believe in Jesus, they will die. They'll go to hell forever and ever. Jesus will hurt them. So they're not able to question, why would a loving God have such a vengeful attitude towards his own creation? They're not able to answer that. So our children must be able to articulate this. This is the most important slide in the entire four talks I give. The second topic, I address the distortion. Are we Aryans and Dravidians? A primary distortion that was given to us is that we are so-called Aryans, Dravidians, and tribal people, enforced in textbooks, media, policies. Such a division is completely absent. If you go to any aspect of Indian history or any of the works that we have, nowhere anybody is talking about Aryans, Dravidians, tribals. Nowhere anybody saying, oh, they are North Indians, we are South Indians. Nobody saying that, oh, we came from the mountains and we threw those people to the south. In the south, nobody's saying we used to live in the north and then we came to the south. Any geography of India you go, take any text in any depth of time, any geography, nobody has got memory of Aryans, Dravidians, invasion. This is the reality of our civilization. But then we have got some nonsense over here. So we are seeing that in the evidence-based history, which I presented to you, Bharat is an ancient civilization. In the questionable narrative of history, they say we are a recent civilization. In my research, through genetics and others, we find we are similar people, indigenous similar people. Nobody can say, I have got the Brahmin gene, I've got the Kshatriya gene, I got the Vyasa gene. Nobody, Vaishya gene, nobody can do any of these things because it simply does not exist. At the genetic level, you cannot say any of these things. There is no such thing as race. If somebody comes and says, oh, they are dark people, these people are fair people, we are two races in the country, nonsense, utter nonsense. The person you're saying dark has got the same mutations as the fellow from the north. The fellow from the north has got the same mutations. Skin color, pigmentation is only a function of melanin. It is from allele called SLC24A5. It's a technical term in genetics that controls expression of melanin. It is in the 15th chromosome of the human body, right? That says what color skin you'll acquire as a result of exposure to sunlight. If you're in the southern latitudes, you'll get a darker tone. If you're in the northern latitudes, you'll get a lighter tone. This same mutation is also there not only in the Indians, also in the Europeans. They have the same mutation. This mutation arose in India 30,000 years ago. In my genetics class, I talk about these kinds of things. So there's no such thing as race. Don't look at skin color because that's a nonsensical thing. So we are similar people, but they say we are Aryans, Dravidians, and so on. And I showed to you how knowledge systems developed independently in India, but they say it came with input from Babylon and Greece. In Vedanta, we got very humane, very enlightened, scientific philosophies over here. But then they position us as aggressive, uncivilized, inhumane philosophies. This is the only way you'll see Sanatana Dharma described in NCRT or Western media elsewhere. We can show that Indian knowledge systems impacted other civilizations. They say others impacted us. And evidence, I showed you a lot of things. The texts know nothing about invasion. Archaeological record. If you go and see around 1500 BC, did a new people come into India? Let us see the pottery record. Nothing. If some new people have come, they have come with their technology, their way of making pots, right? We'll see that evidence over there. We are not finding that. So there's absolutely no evidence in archaeology. Genetics is completely inconclusive on origin of Indians because the methodology cannot answer that question. That is the problem. Climatology, we saw 2000 BC, there was a 200-year monsoon failure when peoples have gone out of India. That evidence is there not only in cattle genomics, but it is also there in the Old Testament itself. The Old Testament is saying their Lord God has commanded them, go and kill every man, woman, and child of the Mitannis, the Hittites, and other people who are all Vedic people. So the Kshatriyas and others from India have left in 2000 BCE when we had 200-year monsoon failure and settled in the Fertile Crescent. And we have evidence they had a Sanskritic culture. We have evidence that they invoked Indra, Varuna, Ashwinis, and others in their treaties with the Egyptian pharaohs and others. We have evidence of these things. And in the Old Testament, it says, kill these people, kill every man, woman, child, and so on. Anyway, we saw that. We saw cattle genomics showing out of India. We saw Vedic astronomy showing far greater antiquity than 1500 BC. We saw evidence of river Saraswati. We know that it dried up in northern India by 1900 BCE, before the so-called Aryan invasion. How can the Rig Veda then talk about a powerful Saraswati river flowing from the Himalayas to the Samudra? Where is the river? Where is the river for them to talk about a flowing river? The river has dried up by 1900 BC, 400 years before the alleged Aryan invasion. Then Deccan College, Pune has done a lot of radiocarbon dating at many archaeological sites in the Saraswati Sindhu basin. And they're showing in Birana, Rakigadi, Meghar, other places, they're showing antiquity of 9,000 years before present, 7,000 years before present. These are civilizations, settled sites in these places showing that. So all this is showing cultural continuity that we are an ancient civilization. We are not a recent civilization. Then in the third topic, I went on to say the Western historians of science, they obligatorily source all knowledge systems in ancient Greece. Such a distortion diminishes and does grave injustice to Indian knowledge systems in areas like astronomy, medicine, mathematics. So I tried to show you that if we are an ancient civilization, we must have evidence of gradual growth of knowledge. It cannot come all of a sudden and one book has got advanced knowledge. That is not possible. You must see there's a gradual growth. It's a gradual growth in medicine. It's a gradual growth in astronomy, gradual growth in mathematics. They'll make some errors. Somebody corrects it. Clear evidence is there. I tried to show you these things in the third topic. I also showed to you that we have a lot of ancient mathematicians don't believe these Western timelines. The timelines are shown are far more ancient. In the classical period, people like Aryabhatta, Varamira, and Sridhara, Bhaskara, Brahmagupta, they all lived in northern India. But we are seeing that this is before the Muslim invasion. The first invasion, Bin Qasim was okay. Then India went through about 400 years, repelling all the Muslims. But then after Ghazni came to India, Ghazni, Gori, 1100 and so on, things changed. Northern India, Delhi Sultanate was set up and tremendous persecution was done of Hindu scholars. So the knowledge systems could not thrive in northern India. We are seeing that after Bhaskara II, who lived in Ujjain in this time frame, 1100, no more mathematics, no more astronomy, no more medicine in northern India. Yeah, a few pockets here and there, but no noteworthy names. But you're seeing them in southern India. Why? Because in the same period of time, Vijayanagar Empire was set up in the south, right? Vijayanagar Empire put a wall between the Muslims in the south. That is why today, if you go to Tamil Nadu, you still have temples. You still have temples in Kumbakonam, Tanjavur. If you go there and see these huge, massive temples like Brihadishwara, you can thank the Vijayanagar Empire. If it was not for them, even that would have gone. You would have no idea that your ancestors are capable of building these enormous temples. Today, that evidence is there in the south. If you go to the south, you'll see that. In northern India, you don't have any new temples, rather old temples. Only new temples are there. So the evidence is there, even the scholarly tradition. All these people, 1200 to 1800, they're all in the south, mathematicians, astronomers, up to Kamalakara, who lived in 1657. After Kamalakara, even that tradition is gone because colonialism has come. Colonialism completely killed the scholarly tradition in India. So we are seeing in the citation trial, in the scholarly trial, we are seeing when did it thrive in northern India, when did it thrive in southern India, when did the tradition die? Everything is clear. And in my research, you talked a lot about these things. So I showed in the class deep history of Indian astronomy, antiquity, connected tradition of Indian astronomy, stories of Siddhantas, growth of mathematics. I showed enormous antiquity for medical knowledge. Oh, we didn't talk about medicine much, but I would have shown you root in Atharva Veda, Shushruta, Charaka, Vagbhata, and other such people. Then the last talk was impact on the world. Western narrations of history of science, they say India is just a footnote. If you see any Western book, they'll say, yes, Indians had a symbol for zero. Otherwise, their contribution was one big zero. Because nowhere it comes, nowhere in medicine, astronomy, mathematics, any credit is given to your ancestors. Because according to them, this is what it is, right? So they exalt Greece as the source of knowledge. So I try to show in this talk how the spurious narrative that nomads of Central Asia destroyed Harappa. India had to wait for 1,000 years after the Greeks made contact with Magadha. So only then we got the Brahmi script, only then we became civilized according to their narrative. So they say that you have not had enough time to generate knowledge in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, other things. And they say you must have learned from Greeks and Babylonians. So they say that, for example, Aryans, they got Sanskrit from Central Asia into India. Brahmi, that script came from Aramaic, which is a Semitic script from Levant, Israel, into India. Babylon taught us astronomy. Math and science came from Greece. The Turkic Muslims, they got us culture, cuisine, architecture, music, civilization. British got us science, technology, and rational thought. And even Bhakti was taught to us by St. Thomas. I showed to you, this is not a joke. This is what your children are learning. This is what is there in NCERT textbooks and other such places. I showed in this final talk the spuriousness, utter spuriousness of this narrative by showing to you that, this is my summary slide, how in every period of time, I can trace to you a transmission out of India into some other region. I showed, for example, 3000 BC from India through Gujarat, Lothal, and other places going into Persian Gulf, into Babylon, how Indian knowledge. This is not from India. This is by the Babylonians' own account. There is a work called Babylonica, written by a person called Besorus. He says, in the Babylonian accounts, all knowledge came from the East. People who came by boat. They came by boat and taught us agriculture, they taught us writing, they taught us civilization. So these ideas in the east of Babylon, there's no other country except India. That is where it has come from, by the boat. And we know Lothal was a big port in those days, Dholavira. And anyway, that is one. Then talked about 2000 BC, when monsoon failure happened. From India, people have gone to the Fertile Crescent, meaning the Tigris River Valley, the Nile River Valley, and the Euphrates in Baghdad, and so on. So these areas, they've gone here and transmitted knowledge. Enormous evidence is there for that also. Then from the Hittites were people, Indian, Indo-Aryan, so what is called, I'm sorry, I shouldn't use that word. The Kshatriyas who have landed up over here in Anatolia, the place called Turkey today, that was by the Hittite people. They were called the Hatti people. Anglicization is Hittite. So these people had a city called Purushottam. They had a city called Purushottam, city of man. Imagine that. And they had a Sanskritic kind of culture and so on. And there is evidence that knowledge from there in 1500 BC has gone to Greece, to the Minoan culture over there. So Indian knowledge has gone to Turkey, has gone from there to Greece. By 1500 BC, it has reached over there. And like this, I showed to Armenia, to the Greek philosophers, and then through the Indo-Roman trade route from around 200 BC to 400 current era, then to the Islamic trade route. From Sindh, it has gone to Baghdad in 711 current era. From Baghdad to spread all over Northern Africa, Arabia, up to Spain. From Spain, it is diffused into Europe in all these transmission corridors. Then colonial, direct colonial from 1700 BC to present time. Southeast Asia to Buddhist circuit and other things. So there's tremendous evidence to show Indian knowledge has impacted various civilizations in various periods of time. So that's what I concluded over here. 3000 BC, migrations, genetic records. By 3000 to 2000 BC, Harappan trade with Mesopotamia. 2000 BC, monsoon failure induced migration. Then 500 BC, Greek travelers, Pythagoras, Skylax, Democritus, Pyrrhon, and other people. After Alexander, through 200 BC, this contact, Roman trade from 200 BC to 300 to 500 current era, Silk Road to Southeast Asia, China, Central Asia, medieval trade, Syria, Armenia, Persia, through the Arabs from 711 current era, Abbasid Empire and Europe, Muslims, 1000 current era to 1700s, translation of works to Arabic, Persian, colonial era through the Germans, French, British, and so on, transmission with China through the Silk Road and so on to the present day. So evidence is there in all of these things. So the conclusions of those 4 talks were that in every period of time, we have got understanding of these things. In the first talk, I showed how what we are learning in schools, media, government is utterly wrong, is utter nonsense. 5 agencies have enforced their ideology and frameworks. They control the history of India even to the present day. That is why we are all deracinated, and our Sanatana Dharma has been killed off. It's been suffocated and killed thanks to these frameworks. And there is strong evidence to uphold the antiquity of Indian civilization. Second talk, I showed with multiple disciplines, there is no evidence of migration, antiquity, and so on. In the third talk, I talked to you about epistemology, the knowledge generation showing great antiquity in India. Vaisheshika, I showed it as even before Buddhism. In the Indian tradition, must go to 1800 BC and so on, and well-developed mathematics, astronomy, medicine. In the final talk, I showed contact with all of these places and how knowledge has gone out. And today we are sitting where there's an unacknowledged history, and urgently we need revision of these things if we have to rescue our present generation and future generations. If we don't do it, I'm guaranteeing within another generation, we'll be small islands of Sanatana Dharma practice, and soon that will also be gone. Maybe maximum 50 years, we'll be gone, completely gone. So it's up to us. Every one of you, I thank you so much for coming today because you invested your time to listen to this. I hope you feel the urgency as well as the strong emotions that I have, and we can try to make a positive change out there in our circles, in whatever means we can. Okay, with that, so I'm doing these things under the auspices of Hindu University of America. So this is the place where I'm offering courses, one way of formalizing what I'm doing. Right now, I'm offering a course on astronomy. Today is the second class. And so far, I only have questions from Bhushan Verma ji and Subhash Gupta ji. If any one of you have questions on any of these things, please stand up and we will take your questions. So I'll first address the question from Bhushan ji. He's not here today, but he sent it by email. So he said that serious distortions is there. Invaders are shown up. Oh, okay. He says, our own Hindu Pandits did a huge disservice to our scriptures by misinterpreting, adding things to suit their agendas. This is such a distortion. This is such a distortion that has been put into our minds. Many people, I'm sure there are people over here who believe the same thing, because this idea has been put into your heads that the Hindu Pandit Brahmin was keeping the knowledge to himself, did not give knowledge to the lower classes. We don't have upper, lower, but they said that to the lower classes, therefore oppressing them and so on. That is why Indian knowledge has died. This idea has come out even in Bhushanji's question. Utterly wrong. I showed how this whole business of caste is a fabrication. There is no upper, there is no lower. If you read the works of Dharampal, one of the persons I paid obeisance to, Dharampal, he took the British records and he tried to show in his book called Beautiful Tree. Those of you who are interested, go to Google, search for Dharampal, Beautiful Tree, download that book and read it. He's given the statistics from the East India Company's census, where he's showing in Tamil Nadu and in Bengal, 2 places the British first went, there were thousands and thousands of schools. Every village and town that had a temple had a patashala. In that patashala, the village priest was teaching children of all the backgrounds, not just the Brahmins. Dharampal has given British records on the ratio in the class. He's saying more than 50% of the class is a so-called backward class. Another 30-40% of other classes, less than 10% of the Brahmins. This is what Dharampal is saying based on British records as he's seen in Bengal and in Tamil Nadu. If we believe this narrative that Brahmins did not teach other people, then what were the 90% of the class doing as the British have recorded? And they were teaching them topics from various things like mathematics, medicine, the Vedas themselves. In the Vedas, some things were taught to Brahmins based on Sampradaya. And for the other artisan classes, they would learn the artisan trades and measurement and commerce and other such things. So Dharampal has given a beautiful account of all of these things. So this allegations is very, very dangerous. Let's not echo what is happening over here. Evidence from Dharampal shows that the Pandits taught every background, every varna, whatever varna you are from, they were teaching them. So don't buy this communist narrative of oppressor, oppressed, that the Brahmins are oppressors, they kept the knowledge themselves, did not give. This is a missionary distortion that was continued by the socialists, that was continued by the Marxists. Reject that. The evidence shows that it's completely wrong. And is giving examples of Bhagavad Purana, Mahabharata, and a few others. So over here, the reality of the Indian experience is we had an oral tradition for a long time. The Smriti literature, Shruti literature, there was very powerful, what we call Ganapata. You can look up something called Ganapata. There's a way of reciting the oral tradition such that no error will be there. If you hear of Ganapati talking about reciting the Rig Veda, it is exactly as your ancestor would have said more than 10,000 years ago. Exactly the same. There's no difference at all. The pronunciation, in the way it is said, it is the same thing. This is the kind of fidelity that we have in transmission. Then in the Smriti literature, we have written records coming from there on. And in India, we did not use cuneiform text. We did not use paper. We used palm leaves. Palm leaves have got a life of about 100 years. In India, there's a tradition that at a certain festival, I forget the name of the festival, the tradition was they'll copy the old palm leaves into new. Who's they? The Sampradaya. In each Sampradaya, they'll maintain those books. They will copy the new palm leaves and they'll burn the old palm leaves. So this tradition has been there in India for a very, very long time. Sometimes errors happen. Additionally, in items like mathematics and astronomy, we have evidence that in that Sampradaya, somebody will notice an error made by his guru and he'll correct it. So by the time his time comes, he'd have corrected that. That evidence is there in astronomy. Something called Brahma Siddhanta that is done in 1400 BCE. Errors are there because of precision. But later people who maintain the Sampradaya, they did not take that name. They were not trying to plagiarize their guru's work. They continued in the name of the guru, but they'll add their little thing over there. That is what we are seeing over there. So it's calling it as a misinterpretation and such things. That is not true. What is happening is they are adding content over there. So Manusmriti. Manusmriti is one of the hugely distorted things, a favorite beating horse of the communists, of the Marxists, and so on. I encourage everybody to read Manusmriti. The problem is, if you're reading English translation, you're going to read H.H. Wilson, you're going to read Griffith, all biased nonsense. Even if you take this Sri Lankan scholar, I forget his name. He wrote a critical edition on Manusmriti very recently, about 10 years ago. You'll find problems. At least he's more fair than the others, but you'll still find problems in that. If you read Manusmriti, you'll find that it is not only Smriti, by the way. You have Baudhayanas, Katyayanas, you have many Dharma Shastras and others that have guided the civilization. These are only guideposts. We don't have books like Quran or like Bible saying that this infallible word of God. These are guideposts to us. We are expected to live life dharmically. We are expected to be mindful of our karma. What is the karma I'm generating? Trying to reduce our karmic load, right? Because I don't want karma phala to go to the next lifetime. I want to be liberated in this lifetime. So I'm mindful of my karma. At any given point, I should think sattvically, go to sattvika state of mind, practice dharma in everyday life. How do you know how to practice dharma? That is there in Dharma Shastras. They are the guidepost. It does not say this is the only way to live life, but they're giving you some guidelines. If you do these things, you're on the right path. So that is the way to interpret any of these works. Additionally, given that these were relevant for that time, that context, Manusmriti itself says that every age there'll be a new work, there'll be a new Smriti for that particular age. So, but this is unfortunately made use with several distortions. Then this caste system, we talked enough about the caste system and so on. So the first question of Bhushanji has been addressed in my first talk, but there's a lot to say about it. I'm looking at the time, it's already 11:15. So our scriptures are misinterpreted by foreigners. Our textbook history was rewritten. school curriculum. What is the way to get back to reality? I'll address that. Is there a focused effort happening in India by government? No, no, there isn't, unfortunately. So the Modi government has brought about the new education policy, NEP 2020, that encourages people to add subjects that are from Indian knowledge systems and so on. Schools have got autonomy to include content in their classes from 5 to class 7, I think. But 10, 11, and 12 are board exams. For the board exams, they must study NCERT topics. NCERT is where the distortions are. But in the remaining time, they're free to learn whatever they want. And many people have approached me also to try and write content on that kind of thing. But the bottom line is what the government has done is half the way there. We should go all the way. That has not happened. I'll talk about that. The last one, Nalanda University, it may offer for a platform. It does not get bogged down. Are you involved? No, I'm not involved in any of these things. I visited Nalanda 2 years ago on the invitation of their vice chancellor, and I gave a workshop over there, but I don't have any other association with Nalanda. So Subhash Gupta ji had also asked a question. What is our responsibility? What do we do as Hindus to preserve this? This adds with Bhushanji's second question too. What do we do? In my talks, I've said that the Hindu community has got responsibility at all levels. You as an individual have got a responsibility to your dharma. See, we over debt in Hinduism, in Sanatana Dharma, we believe we have many debts. We have a debt to ourselves. We have a debt to our gurus. We have a debt to our pitrus. We have got a debt to various things. So we have to do our duty to each dharma, to each of them. So what is the duty that you have towards Sanatana Dharma? That is the question. This is what your ancestors' faith has come down to you. Should it die with you or should it continue? Are you going to decide this is an archaic way of life? This is all not contemporary anymore. We should throw this away. Who are you to make the decision? Because you made the decision with incorrect knowledge coming from the British and the missionaries. So we should not be arrogant enough to think, I will make a choice what my children will learn. I'm sorry, that is based upon deracinated knowledge. That's coming from deracinated nonsense. We have to be very, very careful over there. So at the individual level, I believe each of us must make an effort to understand true knowledge. I truly thank all of you for coming to this room because you have taken that step. I don't profess to be a great scholar, but you put in that time to come here and listen to these talks. That is step number one. You continue this by going to YouTube and seeing talks by Raju Malhotra, by Subhash Kak, so many gurus at various levels. There are some people who are talked at this level, beginner level, all the way to Vedantic experts who are talking at this level. You may not understand these talks, but you may understand these talks. So ramp up slowly, try it at your level, try to go to a YouTube talk that you understand, and slowly make your way to the top. So that's the first step. You get authentic information about your civilization, your ancestors, your way of life, and your thinking. First one. Then you get an understanding of how the Abrahamic, the world around you is Abrahamic. We must do the Purva Paksha. We must understand what are they saying, how are they converting our kids, understand the battleground, understand how we can use this knowledge to teach our children to do that. That is your responsibility. You have a third responsibility. That is, you have to be active in your schools. Whenever you see in your children or grandchildren's textbooks some nonsense, go to the PTA meeting. Go to the PTA meeting, demand from the teacher, why are you teaching my kid this nonsense? Why is it when you talk about Judaic faith or Christian faith, you have beautiful pictures, but when you talk about Sanatana Dharma, you've got a slum or a cow. That is what your pictures show. Why is it that? Why does my child have to feel small in your classroom? They'll say they can't do anything but escalate it. Escalate it to the school board, escalate it to the ISD, whichever the ISD is. So put pressure on them. If more and more Hindus do that, the pressure will be felt. That is the thing. Then you're all disenfranchised as far as India is concerned, but people who are in India, the Hindus, they must hold their elected officials accountable. They have to go and demand, why are you not writing a bill that will protect this over here? Why are you not destroying that superstition, anti-superstition bill that is there in UPA states? Why are you not destroying this Temple Control Act? Why are you not doing that? These questions must be asked and worked upon. So the individual level, we have these responsibilities. Plus, you must also support the scholars. We don't have zakat, we don't have tithing. We are relying on some billionaire there to give a grant and make things happen. It is his responsibility. No, I'm sorry, it's everybody's responsibility. You should be supporting. For example, Aim for Sevas has its appreciation event coming soon, their annual fundraiser. So if you can you support a child, $500 for a year, you support a child in India learning the traditional system. This is the way we support our way of life. If we have a base, grassroots base in India, we at least are giving a chance for the next civilization. You are all rich, you're all living in America. So you should be supporting 5 to 6 children a year through Ekal Vidyalaya, through Aim for Seva, through various things. You should be doing that. If you're not doing that, you're doing pop. I'll tell you that much. You should be doing that. So please, please, please consider doing that. This is the dharma that you have to do. Dharma to our civilization, you have to do that. So these are the individual dharmas that you have to do that can protect our civilization. Now, moving on, what about institutions? Institutions like Arya Samaj, institutions like Chinmaya Mission, Ramakrishna Mission, what about these people? They also have a great responsibility. The board in these places must do what Arya Samaj has done today. Arya Samaj invited a scholar to come and talk. Who else is doing this? Which temple do you know has invited a scholar to come and speak? We have another scholar here, Dr. Joshi, who's going to be talking about Ayurveda pretty soon. He's sitting right here next to Vijay Kane through HUA. So scholars like this are going to be giving talks. How many of us go to such talks? This is our civilizational knowledge, and we should be making every effort to support scholars. So we are not doing that. So the temples, we should ask the temples which we are supporting. We are writing these $1,000 checks, $1 million checks to build bigger and bigger temples. But we are not realizing that the temples have got gray-haired people and bald-headed people coming to the temples. Where are the young people coming? 20 years later, our temples will be empty. The same story that is happening to churches in the UK, where churches are now being converted into bars in UK because attendance has fallen so low, they're being made into bars and shopping malls. That will happen here. That will happen here. Our temples will become prime real estate to be sold off for some other purpose because nobody will go. So you have to ask your temple boards to open their minds. Don't be so insular, saying, oh, we only do Vedic practice, we only do this, we don't go into politics, we don't involve that. That is close-minded avidya. That is tremendous avidya. If you're not aware of the challenges facing the civilization, you are indulging in tamasic avidya over here. You should not do that. So please talk to your temple boards, whichever you're supporting. Tell them, don't do that. Temple boards must be at the forefront. Just like churches and mosques are the forefront of supporting the scholars, temples should be doing things like this. Third level, what about the media and other people? Media should be at the forefront of calling out these issues. There are several Hindu journalists, right? They need to be saying the injustices. Every time somebody like Rahul Gandhi, well, Rahul Gandhi is right at the top, but many, many lower level people are also there talking nonsense. Highlight them, highlight the hate mongers. Say this man just now gave the statement of hatred. Right now in Karnataka, for example, anti-superstition bill. Say, how is that okay under the Constitution, Article 25 to 30? You're clearly calling out Hindus for discrimination. So people must constantly highlight it and put it into people's mind. Then fourth level, academia and such things. Yes, clearly today we have problems, right? We go to university, they are learning nonsensical things on Hindu studies or so-called South Asian studies. What can we do to get the proper things? We have billionaires today who are supporting these universities with grants, like Jindal Foundation, that foundation, this foundation. They're giving to Harvard, they're giving to Columbia and such places. And they're teaching nonsense. So our billionaires must make them accountable, saying, no, I want authentic Vedanta there. And it should be taught by a Vedanta expert. This is the kind of thing that has to be done. Authentic history to be taught by a history expert, not this kind of thing. So we need to make this money talk. Money talks, but it's got to talk the right language. So at the last level, the government, what can the government do? So the government, like I said, it is completely the final place where these things happen. Court today in India, as in here, we got the judiciary, we got the administrative and the military, right? So the judiciary happily goes about with activism and saying, do this, do that, and so on and so forth. They can also be challenged. The government can come with a bill. Right now, we got anti-Hindu bills, so many anti-Hindu bills. So the voters must force the governments to change these bills. Why do we continue to have this Temple Control Act? Why do we continue to have this right to education? Unfairly putting burden on Hindu institutions. The minority institutions can do as they like with lesser accounting, but Hindu institutions are expected to take 50% of the class with reduced fees, reduce that, and maintain accounting, such things. They have made it in such a way that no Hindu entrepreneur can have a Hindu school in India. because it is financially unviable thanks to Right to Education Act brought about by UPA. Whereas the minority institutions don't have that burden. So they are killing of Hinduism, as you can see, in various ways. These are things that are doing. Government must step in and do that. We should not complacently say, all right, it's just another day in Hindu paradise. We can't do that. You just have to make sure that you're working against these things. So Subhashji, I hope that address your question. Subhashji had asked a question, what can we do to reclaim this narrative? At the individual level, there are things we can do. At the institutional level, there are things that we can do. At the government level, things should be done. Granted, we don't have control at the government level, but we can still put pressure on our elected officials to write the correct bill, to challenge the wrong bills. We can continue doing that, put that pressure and make that happen. Even in the US, it can happen. There are many groups like Kohona, like others who are trying to get different states to say the swastika, where it's not what we think it is, the Hindu symbol, and also recognizing Deepavali and festivals like that. Yes, this is one kind of activism, raising the awareness, but we need more activism of this kind. Okay, that is a long response, but then we have a responsibility. That is the bottom line. Everybody here, like I said, I thank you from the bottom of my heart that you've come here to this talk. But continue this. This responsibility must carry to the next level. The next level is open your checkbook and write a check. $500, support a child in India. Just one child a year, good enough. You've done a little bit of your dharma. If you can support 10 children, go ahead, do it. And if you can do that, you have taken steps to reclaim our identity. And practice. What do we learned here? What are you learning? Teach your children the same things. Like there is a speaker called Deepa Bhaskaran Salem. Please search for her on YouTube. I'll repeat her name, Deepa Bhaskaran Salem. Look for her on YouTube. She's got some beautiful talks. How to talk to your teenager about Sanatana Dharma. How to talk to your middle school kid about Sanatana Dharma. So she talks about the Pancha Yajna that you can do. Things like kindness to animals, kindness to yourself, kindness to something else. Small things, even small things like you leave some water in your backyard for birds. In summer in Houston, it's very hot, right? So you tell your child, this is part of our dharma that we are here taking care. So even though it is not saying a prayer, you're reinforcing a kind aspect with Sanatana Dharma. And the child grows up internalizing these things, that these positive, good things are what Sanatana Dharma is. If you don't do that, they will tell that, oh, caste system is what Sanatana Dharma is, monkey worship is what Sanatana Dharma is, and all this nonsense. And your kids will be so ashamed, they'll distance themselves from all of these things. So truly speaking, you're the last frontier over here. You are the last fortress. So try to make it work. Any other questions? I have another 2 or 3 minutes. I'll take any other questions from the audience. Yes.
Hello. So let me just get up so everybody can see me. I'm Vijay Kane.
Yes, it's on.
I'm Vijay Kane with Hindu University of America. I run the local Friends of HUA chapter. Dr. Vedam has just started teaching a course. I think the first one was yesterday. So if you can just spend another minute elaborating a little bit more about the course, and is it too late for someone to join that course?
Well, the course I'm currently teaching is Bharatiya astronomy. Excuse me. I taught a 2-part course on Hindu history, talking about the evidence. What I gave you in 4 lectures, that truly is a 20 lecture of 2 hours each. That is the actual size in Hindu University of America, even that I'm skimming the surface. So that I have in 2 courses at HUA that I'm not offering at the current time. I'll soon offer it again. And right now, I started a new course on Bharatiya astronomy. It's a 15-lecture course on Bharatiya astronomy. That has started today evening, the 2nd course. I'm now rushing to the airport. I had to go to Baltimore. And when I reach the hotel, I'll offer that class. But anyway, is it too late to join the class? You're welcome to join. You can see the videos, older videos. If you're interested in astronomy, you can support HUA. Why should you support HUA? Hindu University of America is perhaps one of the institutions we have to support and build. We don't have a Hindu voice, authentic Hindu voice. So can this university be built up so that it becomes a place where people will go? If the CNN wants an opinion of somebody, they call Hindu University of America and ask, can you give a statement on this? This is the authentic place to go rather than calling a Marxist scholar in Columbia University and places like that on Hinduism. We want to make it an authentic voice. So by taking courses in HUA, you're not supporting me. Trust me, I'm not taking money for that. But the point is you're supporting HUA to grow. Let's build it in an institution. So that's also our collective responsibility here in USA. The Indian Americans must support building our own institutions. Kohana is one, HAF is another, and there are many, many organizations, and HUA is an important organization. Okay.
Dr. Joshi, visiting from India, he's an extremely accomplished Ayurveda physician, and he's going to be giving a seminar tomorrow evening at the Sugarland Library at 6:30, from 6:30 to 8:30. If anybody's interested, I'll be hanging around. I'll give you more information about that. Thanks.
Yes, sir. I'll take one last question. I'm looking at the time. Okay, there are two questions, but I'll take both him and the last person, the gentleman in the back also.
This question is going to sound like trivial to you, but I want to show my kids that ancient Indians were good at mathematics. In your slides, you showed number of mathematical equations that our ancient people had, such as sine q is equal to q minus q.
Come to the question. Please come to the question.
Okay,
Yes.
the question is, I'm sure our ancient sages did not describe those equations in that form that you showed, mathematical form. They must have some shlokas or something to describe that. Can you give an example of what kind of shloka will describe an equation like that?
Yeah, it's not relevant to the talk right now. So there are very detailed works. You can read the works of Aryabhatiyam, for example. Aryabhatiya, he had an alpha numeric system, meaning that he would take numbers and using the consonants kaka, gaga, nga, that one, or e, vowels were powers of 10, and consonants were numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So by using this, he would compose prose. He'd compose verses that encodes a mathematical formula. For example, for sine function, for the mathematical sine function, he had a verse. If you just repeat, it looks like a meaningless verse of words. I don't remember the verse to tell you exactly. If you read that, you can translate that into the numbers it represents. You'll find exactly the trigonometric table that decides a sine function. So things like this were done. And Kattapayadi, that was a system that was called in Kerala. So different numerical systems are there. You're right in saying that equations are not in the form that we're seeing sin x, cos x, because this notation came from René Descartes in after this age of reason in the Europe. So they came about with this modern notation of x, y, z for the unknowns in algebra, and left-hand side represents this right-hand side. So this modern way of seeing it has come recently. Indians, of course, they had algebra, and the way they did it was slightly different. Yes, sir. Last question.
My question is, with the coming of Ram Temple, can we think of a Hindu body working as apex body from that institution, bringing all the sects under one umbrella, giving directions for the religion that these are do's and these are don'ts? So perhaps that will help the Hindus to unite, as well as to think that we have one Lord, which was the creator or whatever you can call it, and then proceed further on Hindu education.
It's a worthwhile goal, but we have to be practical. How is that going to happen? Swami Dayanand Saraswati, not Arya Samaj, but the recent one of Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, he had organized a Hindu Mahasabha. The Hindu Mahasabha was a gathering of all the Hindu institutions to address this Christian threat. So when they had the Parliament of Religions, I think UN had organized a talk. Around that time, he had organized all the acharyas of the sabhas together, and they gave a statement against this Pope. At that time, I think this Pope Paul, I forget which Pope was there. He had wanted to show that we are tolerant, religiously tolerant, and they showed how tolerance is a negative word. It is popularized now by Rajiv Malhotra, but earlier, Swami Dayanand Saraswati had mentioned that. And they showed what should be mutual respect and not tolerance. See, for example, if you say we are very tolerant people, I wanted to think of the semantics of the word tolerant. Would you go, for example, to your neighbor and say, I tolerate you? Would you go to your wife or husband and say, I tolerate you? You see how negative that word is? It means I cannot stand the existence of you, but I will keep you by my side, whatever. That's what it means. And Swami Dayananda Saraswati had said the basis for our civil discourse in a plural society is mutual respect. I will respect your way of life, you respect my way of life. So they stalled the entire proceedings of UN until this was done. The Catholics were holding out. They didn't want to do that. At the last minute, they didn't want the conference to die. So they quickly made a statement. But immediately after, they issued a statement. You can search in Google for all these things. They issued a statement saying that we believe that Catholic faith is the only true way. There's no other way. But anyway, there are several challenges to what you asked. So who is going to do this? Swami Dayananda Saraswati did it, Mahasabha at that time. Who will do these things? Who is there of big enough stature to do it? These are the issues. If we can do it, this is a fool's dream at this point. If we can do it, it is great. This is why I said, our karma as a Hindu civilization today is we don't have that leader who can bubble up, who can bring everybody together and make these big ideas happen. We have the money, we have the knowledge. We don't have the organization. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Well, it takes a lot of effort to put the presentation together, thoughts together, and giving us so much time for last 5 weeks. It's not easy to share your message and give us so much knowledge. I really enjoyed it so much. I have learned so much. I'm sure everybody has learned. All this material which he has shared with us is on the YouTube channel on Arya Samaj YouTube. We call it Arya Samaj Greater Houston YouTube video channel. So you can share, you can see everything there. Let's give him a standing ovation to this gentleman here. And I will request Ashutoshi to give us some small gift from Arya Samaj.
ये जो काम कर रहे हैं बहुत मुश्किल काम है, you know, and it's a really an honor to be so committed, actually, like he is committed and convicted. I mean, conviction है इनकी कि भाई हिंदू धर्म को जो है पूरे लोगों को बताना है. आसान काम नहीं है, बहुत सारे लोग फेल हो चुके. हमारी आपके साथ बेस्ट विशेस हैं कि आप इस काम में जरूर सक्सीड हो. थैंक यू.
Thank you so much. So you're stuck with me today. Sanjay Jainji is not here. He's at the Mahasammelan. Usually we have Acharya Ji gives a lecture. Today we have a lecture from him. And we're going to do the bhajans for next 15, 20 minutes with Raja Ji and Smriti Ji. And we will really enjoy that. But I'd like to give some, let me see, we have some presentation. So Arya Samaj, just let me see if I can share this. Okay. So right now, as I mentioned, Arya Samaj is celebrating Mahasammelan in New York City. So many of the individuals are there right now. We have a yoga classes on Saturday, Sunday, and 8 a.m. If you haven't been here, come and start enjoying the yoga classes. We have a weekly satsang from 9:45 to 12 noon. We have 4 schools actually. First school is the DAV Montessori School, where we have the students from preschool all the way from 2.5 years age till the 5th grade. We are very proud of Montessori School accomplishments. School has been the PSIAA state champion 3rd year in a row. The children engage in a diverse range of completion, such as math, writing, and many more. Registration is open and requesting to encourage your friends and family children to attend the Montessori School. So if you know any children they need to go to school, we got a great school here. I wish my grandchildren were here. I will put them to school, all of them here. So please share this message to your friends, to family members, and so on. On Sunday, Acharya Brahmdev Ji also manages Sanskrit Vedic School, from age 5 through 17. And I can show you my own personal, my children were the first students. They started attending almost 30 years ago. And they have taken all the knowledge and they're keeping that knowledge with them. So it's a great place to share the knowledge with your children. Also, our Acharya Suryananda ji conducts Zoom classes, which is on scriptures, Upanishads, Gita. I've been attending it and learning a lot. I encourage you to start attending those Zoom classes. And now I'll request Samriti ji, Meenu ji, and Raja ji to sing melodious bhajans and Aarti and Shanti Path. Thank you.
कुछ नए चेहरे दिख रहे हैं, शायद आप लोग पहली बार आए हैं या आते होंगे, हमने नोटिस नहीं किया। सभी का वादन है। आज गुरु पूर्णिमा है, तो सबसे पहले तो हमारे जो भी गुरु आपके हैं सब उनको नमन। तो उसी एक श्लोक के साथ शुरू करती हूँ। गुरुर् ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवे महेश्वरा गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। अब एक बहुत प्यारा भजन है, आप लोग ने जरूर सुना होगा। साथ में हम लोग के गाइएगा या बीट पे कम से कम ताली जरूर बजाइएगा, तो लगेगा आप एंजॉय कर रहे हैं। मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता, मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता, जो कोई जैसा कर्म करे वो वैसा ही फल पाता। मेरे दाता के हो, मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता, जैसा जिसने कर्म किया जैसा जिसने कर्म किया वो वैसा ही फल पाता। मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता। मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता, मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता, जो कोई जैसे कर्म करता तो कोई जैसी करनी करता वैसा ही फल पाता। मेरे दाता के दरबार। कैन यू इंक्रीज इट लिटिल बिट, हम लोग की वॉइस का। मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता, मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता। ओ क्या साधु क्या संत गृहस्थी, ओ क्या साधु क्या संत गृहस्थी, क्या राजा क्या रानी, प्रभु की पुस्तक में लिखी है सबकी प्रेम कहानी, प्रभु की पुस्तक में लिखी है सबकी प्रेम कहानी। साधु क्या संत गृहस्थी, क्या राजा क्या रानी, सबकी पुस्तक में लिखी है सबकी प्रेम कहानी। अंतर्यामी अंदर बैठा अंतर्यामी अंदर बैठा सबका नाम लगाता मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता। किसी को कौड़ी कम नहीं देता देना दमड़ी ज्यादा। इसीलिए तो दुनिया का इसीलिए तो दुनिया का वो जगत पिता कहलाता मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता। चले न उसके आगे रिश्वत चले नहीं चालाकी उसकी लेन देन की बंदे रीत बड़ी है न्यारी। चले न उसके आगे रिश्वत चले नहीं चालाकी हो उसकी लेन में बंदे रीत बड़ी है न्यारी हो। चले न उसके आगे रिश्वत चले नहीं चालाकी हो उसकी लेन देन की बंदे रीत बड़ी है न्यारी। समझदार तो चुप ही रहता समझदार तो चुप ही रहता मूर्ख शोर मचाता मेरे दाता के दरबार। आइए सब लोगों का खाता हो मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता। उजली करनी कर ले भैया करम ना करियो काला। उजली करनी कर ले भैया करम न करियो काला। ओ लाख आंख से देख रहा है तुझे देखने वाला। ओ उजली करनी कर ले भैया करम न करियो काला। ओ लाख आंख से देख रहा है तुझे देखने वाला। उसकी तेज नजर से बंदे उसकी तेज नजर से बंदे कोई नहीं बच पाता मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता। जो कोई जैसी करनी करता जो कोई जैसी करनी करता वैसा ही फल पाता मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता। उसकी तेज नजर से बंदे कोई नहीं बच पाता मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता। समझदार तो चुप ही रहता मूर्ख शोर मचाता मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता। इसीलिए तो दुनिया इसीलिए तो दुनिया का वो जगत पिता कहलाता मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता। अंतर्यामी अंदर अंतर्यामी अंदर बैठा सबका हिसाब लगाता मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोगों का खाता मेरे दाता के दरबार मेरे दाता के दरबार में सब लोग लोगों का खाता। मध्यम का जाएगा, ये जाएगा। Another very positive upbeat भजन। हिम्मत ना हारिए प्रभु ना बिसारिए, हिम्मत ना हारिए प्रभु ना बिसारिए, हंसते मुस्कुराते हुए जिंदगी गुजारिए। एंड शायद ताली मत बजाइए, बीट पे इतनी जोर से बजे कि हमको सुनाई दे यहाँ पे कि आप लोग ताली बजा रहे हो और एंजॉय कर रहे हो। हिम्मत ना हारिए प्रभु ना बिसारिए, हिम्मत ना हारिए प्रभु ना बिसारिए, हंसते मुस्कुराते हुए, हंसते मुस्कुराते हुए जिंदगी गुजारिए। हिम्मत ना हारिए प्रभु ना बिसारिए, हिम्मत ना हारिए प्रभु ना बिसारिए, हंसते मुस्कुराते हुए जिंदगी गुजारिए, हंसते मुस्कुराते हुए जिंदगी गुजारिए। हंसते मुस्कुराते हुए जीना जिसको आ गया, टूटे हुए दिलों को, टूटे हुए दिलों को सीना जिनको आ गया। हंसते मुस्कुराते हुए जीना जिसको आ गया, टूटे हुए दिलों को सीना जिसको आ गया। ऐसे देवताओं के चरण पखारिए, ऐसे देवताओं के चरण पखारिए, उनकी तरह देव बनके, उनकी तरह देव बनके जिंदगी गुजारिए, उनकी तरह देव बनके जिंदगी गुजारिए। काम ऐसा कीजिए जिसमें हो सबका भला, बातें ऐसी कीजिए, बातें ऐसी कीजिए जिनमें हो अमृत भरा। काम ऐसा कीजिए जिसमें हो सबका भला, बातें ऐसी कीजिए जिनमें हो अमृत भरा। मीठी बोली बोल सबको प्रेम से पुकारिए, मीठी बोली बोल सबको प्रेम से पुकारिए, कड़वे बोल बोल के ना, कड़वे बोल बोल के ना जिंदगी गुजारिए, कड़वे बोल बोल के ना जिंदगी गुजारिए। हिम्मत ना हारिए प्रभु शुक्र दातिया ओ शुक्र दातिया तेरा शुक्र दातिया। जिंदगी जिंदगी रही है, जिंदगी रही है गुजर दातिया, शुक्र दातिया तेरा शुक्र दातिया ओ शुक्र दातिया तेरा शुक्र दातिया। मुश्किलों मुसीबतों का करना हो जो खात्मा, मुश्किलों मुसीबतों का करना हो जो खात्मा, हर समय कहते रहिए, हर समय कहते रहिए शुक्र है परमात्मा। गिले शिकवे कर अपना, गिले शिकवे कर अपना हाल ना बिगाड़िए, गिले शिकवे कर अपना हाल ना बिगाड़िए। जैसे प्रभु राखे, जैसे प्रभु राखे वैसे जिंदगी गुजारिए, जैसे प्रभु राखे वैसे जिंदगी गुजारिए। हिम्मत ना हारिए प्रभु ना बिसारिए, हिम्मत ना हारिए प्रभु ना बिसारिए। मुझसे मुस्कुराते हुए, हंसते मुस्कुराते हुए, हंसते मुस्कुराते हुए जिंदगी गुजारिए। अब आप लोग संरोध है आरती के लिए खड़े हो जाइए। ओम जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी जय जगदीश हरे। भक्त जनों के संकट, दास जनों के संकट क्षण में दूर करे। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। जो ध्यावे फल पावे, सुख विनशे मन का स्वामी, दुख विनशे मन का। सुख संपत्ति घर आवे, सुख संपत्ति घर आवे, कष्ट मिटे तन का। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। मात पिता तुम मेरे, शरण गहूँ मैं किसकी स्वामी, शरण गहूँ मैं किसकी। तुम बिन और न दूजा, प्रभु बिन और न दूजा। आस करूं मैं जिसकी, विषय विकार मिटाओ, पाप हरो देवा, स्वामी कष्ट हरो देवा, श्रद्धा भक्ति बढ़ाओ, श्रद्धा प्रेम बढ़ाओ, संतन की सेवा। ओम जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे, स्वामी जय जगदीश हरे, भक्त जनों के संकट, दास जनों के संकट, क्षण में दूर करे। ओम जय जगदीश हरे, ओम जय जगदीश हरे, ओम जय जगदीश हरे। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। हे नाथ सब सुखी हो, कोई न हो दुखारी, सब हो निरोग भगवन, धन धान्य के भंडारी, सब भद्र भाव लेके सन्मार्ग के पथिक हो, दुखिया न कोई होवे, सृष्टि में प्राणधारी, दुखिया न कोई होवे, सृष्टि में प्राणधारी। ओम देव शांतिरंतरिक्षं शांतिः, पृथ्वी शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिः, वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्विश्वे देवाः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिः, सर्वं शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः, सा मा शान्तिरेधि। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। जो बोले सो अभय,
सत्य सनातन वैदिक धर्म की जय।
मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम श्री रामचंद्र जी की
जय।
योगेश्वर श्री कृष्ण जी की
जय।
महर्षि दयानंद जी की
जय।
ओम का झंडा
ऊंचा रहे,
आर्य समाज
अमर रहे,
वेद की ज्योति
जलती रहे।
प्रणव ध्वनि। भोजन मंत्र। ओम अन्नपते अन्नस्य नो देवस्य शुष्मिना प्रदातारं तारिशौर्यं नो देहि दुःपदे च दुष्पदे। ओम शांति शांति शांति। सभी को सादर वादन हम सबकी ओर से। और एक और रिक्वेस्ट है हमारे राजा बंगा जी के लिए और हमारी मीनू जी के लिए, जोरदार तालियां बजा दीजिए। बहुत अच्छा लगा। राजा जी का तबला तो हमेशा ही, बिकॉज ऑफ हिज तबला यू कुड एंजॉय माय भजन्स आई थिंक मोर।